Joe O'Brien.
I'm doing a Kevin McAllister. You're right. It's more like, welcome to Glass Cannon Radio, the show where you have hot takes forced down your throat by myself and Mr. Joe O'Brien. I'm Jared Logan. This is the show where you can call in and tell us what you think of everything going on in the geekosphere. That is our trademark name for nerd culture. Joe, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing not that great, dude. Not that great.
What? What's
I'm
up?
sick. I'm ill.
No.
It's all right. It's just a cold. It's a cold. It happens.
I hate a summer cold.
Hate a summer cold. So I am. I got my box of tissues here. I got my big cup of water, and I'm powering through. I'm going to do a lot of mic muting as I blow my nose on air. It's going to be great.
I've been really sick. I've been really sick too. I'm not able to get an erection, and it's been going on for like 7 years now.
There's medicine for that. I mean, most of the podcasts
I got my box
you listen
of tissues,
to
but I'm not using them.
But I'm not using them.
There is medicine for that. By the way, guys, just so you know, that was a bit. Everything's all the plumbing's working downstairs.
All the plumbing's working. Jared's going strong. Don't worry.
I just wanted to start the show off on a fun note. Hello. Okay, so this is
you just said that you wanted to hear some hot takes, or that
I do.
We give out some hot takes. What about caller hot takes?
I want to hear more caller hot takes.
We need more caller hot takes for real.
What are you? What are you fucking afraid of us? Are you fucking afraid of us? Do we scare you?
You are the one to kind of go after the callers right away. You go in hard. Do you think this is kind of like just a natural reaction of a comedian? You know, a stage comedy performer. Your first reaction is roast. Like, is that?
Oh God. Well, I mean, I hope not. I'm not really a roast comedian when I perform on stage, honestly. I'd like to think that me going in on the callers is really their fault. It's sort of
they
a
brought
function.
It on themselves. They brought it on themselves.
The hot takes come out when I hear wrong takes. So
you're just being honest. At that point, you're just being honest. It's not a bit. It's not roasting. You're just letting people
real.
know they're honestly stupid.
I'm just no one used the word stupid. No one used the word stupid. It's all out of love. I got a whole lot of love to give.
Got a whole lot of love for the nation.
Did you ever see the movie Magnolia with William H. Macy?
I did, but it's been a long time.
I have so much love to give. I just don't know how to show it.
Yeah.
That's his quote from that. That's me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'd love to see you in tears on Glass Cannon Radio one day, talking about how much you love the Naish.
Hey, listen, if we want to see some tears, let's get Paula on the show.
Yeah. There we go. We'll get Paula on and confess her love for the Naish. I'm sure she'll be brought to tears. What is up, Naish? If you guys want to join us, you can be on the show. You can be on the show today, right now, live. We shoot this live every Wednesday at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. You can call in through Discord, through our Discord platform. If you're a member of the Naish, you just got to go to jointhenaish.com and then click over, link it to your Discord, and you can join our show right here. We bring up callers throughout the show, get their hot takes, their opinions on matters in the geekosphere, and you can join that. And you can do it for free as well with the GCN 30 code, which gets you 30 days for free to try it out. So come in, join up, and join the show.
And give us your hot takes. Today, big show. We're going to be doing our book club, where we're finally discussing The Blacktongue Thief, which we announced over a month ago. So hope you guys have that all read. Then we're going to do rogues in RPGs and in popular fiction. We're just going to look at like thieves, rogues, scoundrels. Then I have 3 questions for Joseph O'Brien to answer. We have a nerd rant about a very topical new release coming from Paizo. And then we'll give a listener award, which reminds me, should we start with our listener question?
Yeah, why don't we start with our listener question? So we're going to do a listener question today, okay? So anytime, we did this early on in the show, we haven't done it in a bit, but just so you know, anytime you call into the show to give your opinion on anything we're talking about today, we're going to make sure, or I'm going to try to remember to round out that call with this question. And the question's just going to be, and don't type it in chat, you lunatics. Don't type all your answers in chat because it kind of gives it all away, and it'll ruin the game. Also, you want to keep your answers to yourself. If I see an answer in chat a bunch, it'll just be eliminated. I'll just say it on air, and then no one can win the prize. Yeah. So what we're going to do...
and you had guidelines for what's a good answer, too. Sorry, Joe. Do you want to give the question first and then say
I'll give the question first, then I'll give the guidelines. Yeah, so the question, it's a very simple question. The question is, and it's inspired by The Blacktongue Thief, which features, in my opinion, a very lovable cat character. There is a feline character in the book that is very interesting, and that says a lot coming from me because I usually start out from a hostile position against cats in literature because I think that they're just being used to manipulate the reader. So I'm just like, get out of here with your loser cat. This one, though, was great. So in the spirit of that, the question for today for every caller is going to be, give us a famous cat, a famous fictional cat of any kind. Can be from any genre of fiction. Give us a famous cat, and the best answer.
Right? The best fictional cat.
The best answer by the end of the show will win the prize. How do you get the best answer? Well, the best way I can put it is I make a comparison to my old buddy Jason Buehlman over at Paizo. Told me one time when we went to Dragon Con together, because he was a big Dragon Con guy, he said the way you win Dragon Con in the cosplay game is you need to dress up as someone everyone recognizes but no one thought to dress as. That is the winning costume at Gen Con, or at Dragon Con. Similarly here, the winning answer today is going to be a clever, interesting, thought-provoking answer of a fictional cat that pretty much all of us would know, but nobody thought to say. That is going to be the kind of target that you want to hit. Is it difficult? Yeah. Is it completely subjective? Absolutely. You also have to realize that you're the only people voting on this are me and Jared, and if there's a tie, McD will break the tie. So you got to work within that realm of like, what do these guys probably know about?
And what have we heard of? And I've heard of a lot, but I haven't heard of every anime ever made.
And I don't watch any anime, so be careful on that front. You can say these deep-cut answers at a great risk. So anyway, if you really want to win the prize, which, by the way, today is going to be a brand new, shiny Glass Cannon Network dice tray. We're going to send you out a dice tray today to the winner of the prize that you can use in your home game. So there you go.
And this tray makes you roll higher numbers, right? It causes the die to be a nat 20.
Factually correct. It crits whenever you need it most. That's the selling point of this particular dice tray. So keep your answers contained. Call into the show. Raise your hand. Even if you don't want to talk about the topic and you just want to get an answer in on the cat question, feel free. But we're going to give that at the end of the show. We'll go through the answers. We'll pick the best one. And there you go.
And I just want to throw out there will be no cat harm during this episode of Glass Cannon Radio. No cats are harmed in
the making of this episode.
No cats were harmed. Okay, let's get into The Blacktongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. Wow, Jason Buehlman, Christopher
Buehlman. Related? I don't know. They spelled them different.
So, just a little background on Christopher Buehlman. I looked this guy up. Did you know that he is a comedian?
I did not know, but I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised
and I mean that
either.
in a positive way.
Right. The book is funny.
I thought it was genuinely funny.
Yes. He is a comedian who started his act and almost exclusively performs his act at Renaissance festivals. So he was a comedian that was like a kind of an old-timey insult herald or whatever.
Yes.
Which is one of the nerdiest things I can think of. But also, I think this guy is nerdy in a great way. So
There was a guy, this is slightly off topic, but McD will remember this. There was a guy who came to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair where McD and I used to go like yearly when we were in our 20s. We would go every year, once a year, to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair, which is a phenomenal Ren fair. And there was a performer there named Giacomo the Jester. And this dude was middle-aged, long gray and white hair. He'd wear a big, kind of furry cap, and he was very talented musician, hilarious comedian, and like a juggler and like sleight of hand magic guy. And he was awesome. We'd go there, he'd entertain the crowds, he'd roast parents and bring up little kids and have funny comedic stuff going on. And eventually, I looked this dude up and you see like he just travels the country to Ren fairs all the time and does his act, you know what I mean? Does his thing. And when I read that about Buehlman in the cover that he goes around to Renaissance fairs, he's a Ren fair performer, I was like, it was my first thought was old Giacomo the Jester. I hope he's doing well.
Hope you're doing well, Giacomo. Also, what a talented guy Giacomo, and what a talented guy Christopher Buehlman that he can also perform. My friends recommend more of his books. People love The Daughter's War, which is a prequel set in the world here of the Blacktongue Thief, but also apparently the one you have to check out is called Between Two Fires, which is historical horror set during the Black Plague. People say that one is incredible. So I'll go ahead and put my cards on the table. I liked this enough. I would definitely check out something else by Christopher Buehlman. I'll leave it there for now. Joe, what did you think?
I agree. I liked this book, and that's saying a lot. I tend to get distracted. I have a hard time getting through books. You'll see as we do more book clubs. I didn't finish Dungeon Crawler Carl. I don't finish most of the books that I start. I either get distracted or it doesn't really hold me. If a book holds me through to the end, that is enough for me to say I like it. There's no books I finish and say, that wasn't for me. Like, I just don't finish it. I don't care to. A lot of people feel like they must finish a book they start. I get that personality trait. I don't have that personality trait. I just sort of move on to another book. And this one, I finished all the way. I did it in time for Glass Cannon Radio, so that was a big deal for me, and I'm excited to talk about it. I liked it right from the jump. I didn't like it from the first sentence because, and it set it really down a bar for me, I struggle with first person, particularly first person fantasy. I'm not interested in the story from one perspective. I just don't.
First person fantasy is rare.
It's rare. It's why I don't like the. I always think of the second book, Wise Man's Fear.
You know who else does first-person fantasy is Patrick Rothfuss.
That's what I was just saying. So Patrick Rothfuss,
whose books I hate.
Wow, I don't like him either. That's amazing.
I think they're so bad.
Me
and people
too.
Think they're incredible.
All I could say is I couldn't get through that first book. Tried twice and couldn't get through it.
He's never going to finish it, and I'm glad.
So it sets it back for me, and then Christopher Buehlman battled back very early on and got me because I loved being in this guy's head. It was a great character to view the world through. You felt cool. You felt sort of like you knew things the other characters didn't, right? Like he's moving all these pieces, playing all these things against each other. Very cool way to set up a book. And overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And Kinch is a great character. His vernacular is very specific. So it's not just his thoughts and the stuff that are going on plot-wise with his character, but the way he tells the story and the way you can tell that he's got all these idioms and all of these, this phraseology that comes from Galt, where he's from, and he's a trickster, and he also kind of tells jokes, as he's going, like, and that's all very well done. That could be a mess, that could be cringe, but instead it feels real, and I liked the guy. I thought I liked him. Once it got rolling and I got into that vernacular, I really, really liked reading the thought processes of that character. What did we think of the plot, though, since I mentioned it just now? This is like an episodic journey. It's like an odyssey through the book. I often think something like that works or fails based on, like, is each separate little episode in the story like interesting? And do you feel like you get enough of them where by the end you've had this like great journey, you know? Like you have to feel like you went on this great quest. Of course, Lord of the Rings does that amazingly. It's like the gold standard, but how did you feel about like the sort of episodic nature of this novel?
I liked it. I think that there were times that it was better than others. I didn't think that it was like, just home runs every episode necessarily, but I felt like I think it comes from my love of Lord of the Rings, perhaps from my love of The Hobbit. Before that, I love Odyssey storytelling. I used to love, like early on when we were doing Giant Slayer, I would always talk about how the games I like to play in D&D and Pathfinder back at that time were like, I always wanted to gather a group and go on a quest, right? Like, I wasn't interested in like a gritty urban political like thriller in a city where you kind of stayed in there the whole time. I have since grown to really love that kind of storytelling too, and understand why that's interesting. But my go-to used to always be a long distance traveling with a group overland and, interacting with all these different things along the way. And when you don't know that that's what's going to happen right away, but kind of early on, they set some things up and you're like, oh, this is going to be neat. Like this woman needs to go on this long journey and we don't know why. And now we need to follow her and we don't know why. I liked that the way that he set up an Odyssey for an unknown reason, because everybody in the quote unquote party is keeping secrets from each other.
Right.
But we have this feeling that we have our interests align in a way that we can at least travel together. And I thought that was a neat setup rather than the classic sort of fellowship thing where it's like, here's the mission and we all set out on that journey together.
Yeah, that is a cool way to kind of change it up a little bit. Like there's a quest, but we're not quite sure what it is. Yeah. Even our main first-person character doesn't really know what the quest is. I think
how
that's
do you
kind
have
of
a first-person character that doesn't know what the quest is? Well, they set it up. They set it up perfectly, so it makes perfect sense. It's you work for a shadow organization, and you work on a need-to-know basis. Bam. Yeah. Simple enough. And this gives me all the reason I need to keep even the main character in the dark and have the reader learn along with the main character.
Also, I mean, just to go off on a tangent for a second, the Takers Guild is chilling. And the way that by the end of the book, you realize that they are the main villain of the entire setting, that they're not just criminal organization that's like basically running the government in a lot of ways. They're also like at the end, you're reading stuff that they're writing that's about how they serve the Forbidden One or something like that. So they're fully the devil. They are the devil. And I thought that they were really early on, you get like chills reading about these guys when there's the beautiful woman who's really just wearing an illusion.
Yes.
You remember that? That was so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the world. Let's talk about the writing. Because there's the plot of a book, there's the characters, there's the stuff that happens in it, but then there's just like the prose of it. I think that's a gigantic component of any book. For me, I already talked about Kinch's kind of vernacular, and because it's first person, that's a really big part of it. But I felt that the prose was like really strong, but didn't really draw attention to itself, which is the kind of thing you want in like a very plot motivated book like this one. I mean, what did you think?
Yes, I completely agree. I think that I need a certain level of prose. I feel like in order to like a book. Actually, that's a stupid thing to say because it's not. That's
not a stupid thing to say. That's true. That's true of me.
The fact is that there are some beach read type thrillery books that I'll love to read on a beach, right? Because great character, interesting plot. They're not necessarily prosaic. However, I will say that like even those, they need to have strong dialogue. If I can get strong dialogue, like that is great for me to like carry things along. And I felt like in this book, in particular, I agree with you completely. I think that's a great analysis that like he didn't try so hard to write a great prosaic book. It felt very natural.
You don't mean prosaic. That means something else.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
A very, a prose sort
beautiful prose. He's not pushing beautiful. He's not pushing purple prose on you.
Right. He's not trying to make it poetic, right? In the way that he writes. And it doesn't, like you said it best, it doesn't draw attention to itself. To me, there's the only bar I set, and I can't remember this if we talked about it in Dungeon Crawler Carl. The only bar I set, usually when I'm reading a book, is, could I write this? And if I feel like I could write it, I tend to not like it. I tend to be like, this isn't very interesting. Like,
wait,
I
Joe,
could do
you
this.
think you could write Dungeon Crawler Carl?
I think I could write Dungeon Crawler Carl.
No,
now, I don't think I have the idea, but I could write. If you said the idea is write a video game as a book, I could be like, yeah, I could do that. And I could do that. Like, I truly believe I could do that. And that's one of the reasons I was like, this is not very interesting.
You're a brilliant man with a great imagination and incredibly skillful, but you could not write Dungeon Crawler Carl. The hard thing to admit sometimes in life, especially as you get older, is that things that you don't really love, things that you dislike, were probably still created by an incredibly talented person. We have to actually begrudgingly and painfully admit that Harlan Coben has talent.
Yes,
it's
I
not
agree.
Talent
there
that
are
I
a lot
value.
of layers.
It's not talent that I value. It's not craft that I value, but it is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree that there are several layers to what makes a final product that a person has to invest themselves in a way that is, you can't really quantify. But what I liked about the writing in this, when you talk about the writing, is there were so many times I just stopped and like reread sentences because I was just laughing. Like I was just laughing. And to me, it was like so much of the humor I felt in Dungeon Crawler Carl was so cheap and so low-hanging fruit. And I wasn't interested in it. This was so biting and comedic in nature in a way that was like, I don't know. It was my style. It was my style of humor, and I felt like this guy nailed it. And so you end up, to me, any character that's funny, you're genuinely funny, that you find genuinely funny, you're going to like. It's a great way to get a character, to get the audience on the side of a character. It's the whatchamacallit method, the Tyrion Lannister method, right?
Yes,
This is a guy who has despicable habits, who is a sort of a gross person, and develops over the course of the story, but you kind of like him immediately because he's funny. And
if you can be funny, that's an incredible talent as an author, and there are some people who think they're funny and are not. Brandon Sanderson. It is an incredibly important thing an author can do. Stephen King, for example, whether you love his books or hate them, I think we must agree Stephen King is funny. He's funny. Like, so there's that. Let's talk about the characters a little bit. So I would love it if there's a lady listener who got through the book to let us know what they think of Noragal and Galva, because I thought the book went out of its way to make sure that there were strong female characters. For me, they were strongly written, and we've already gone into how Kinch is a really interesting character, I think, because he is conflicted throughout the book, I think, in a lot of ways. He's not fully a good guy, although I will be honest with you, Joe. I mean, if I'm picking nits, I thought that he was very chaotic good, and I think at the outset of the book, I was expecting him to be a little more chaotic neutral and have a little more trouble deciding to do the honorable thing.
I agree. I agree with that. I didn't think of that while I was reading it, but that makes sense. It's a trap that I have fallen into in the past. I remember the early days of Giant Slayer. I played a chaotic neutral half-orc in this town who was kind of like a criminal, like a slightly reformed criminal, and I wanted to play that kind of edgy, sort of like not always good, self-interested sort of character. And as always, I fell into like Joe O'Brien Paladin land and just started like making all Paladin choices. And we'd get complaints on like Reddit and stuff way back in the day that were just like, this character is not chaotic neutral. At best, they're chaotic good, leaning toward lawful good. And I would have to self-examine and be like, yeah, I really am falling into this trap where you're like, you want to do the right thing. I kept wanting to do the right thing, When
I play role-playing games, video games, back when I was playing Fallout, Skyrim, and stuff like that a while back, I had the hardest time making the evil choice. Like, it was very tough for me. I couldn't do it. Like, I always had to make like the honorable choice, at least on my first playthrough, because I don't know. There's something that skeeves me out about I think an evil main character can be done extremely well. But I don't mind that Kinch is ultimately pretty honorable. I don't mind it. I think my expectations were a little different from the outset. So
I agree. I also that's a little more complicated. I don't want to get into that right now. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, sure.
Just among those non-Kinch characters, did anyone stand out to you as like, I really like this character, I'm rooting for this character?
Well, I really loved Malk, who's the guy from Galt that he meets on the boat.
Yeah, he was a great character.
I thought that was a great character. I thought that was a complicated character. That character could have been just an antagonist for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up being much more than that. And it feels like he started out as just like a challenge on the boat, and then he kind of graduated into a full character, and then it made his ultimate fate so horrible.
Yes.
And affecting. And for me, that was one of the most affecting parts of the book, was the fate of Malk in Grevica, I think is the town that they're in.
Yeah. I would put those two up there with side by side with like the most memorable visual scenes in my mind, right? And while I'm reading it, it was him being torn apart by these goblins in this. And the way that our narrator explains what it's like in this town, the demarcation line between goblins, and if you cross over to that side, you're under their laws. If you cross over this side of the street, you're under these laws. Like, and they just wait at the border for somebody to screw up. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
And that scene was vicious and brutal. And then the other one for me was the Kraken scene, which I thought was great. Like,
the Kraken was great.
I mean, the way I imagined it, the way it's described, it's just like, oh my God. Like, it's not our first Kraken scene among like fantasy, TV shows, movies, books, but I felt like this approach was very interesting and did it in a way that felt truly terrifying, and like there's no possible victory against this thing. Which was
I love that the first time they encounter the Kraken, Galva like is fighting it, and Kinch is kind of hanging back, and then afterwards she's like, did you just hide? And then she just can't talk to him for like a couple weeks, remember? Like, she's just like, I can't look at you, you're awful. Like, and I thought that was a really kind of strong character moment for her and him. You got into the world a little bit while we're talking about the goblins, and everybody goes on and on about world building all the time in fantasy, which I think is kind of a wank. We put too much emphasis on world building. What I like about this book is that it doesn't put all of its eggs in world building. It also works hard on character and plot. But that said, I really did enjoy the world. And one thing that I noticed about it that I thought was kind of refreshing was that, of late, I feel like we've gotten a lot of fantasy in the vein of Game of Thrones, which is kind of low magic. I would say, like, for example, Loch Lamora, which is a great series that I enjoy, is pretty low magic, but this world is high magic. There's a lot of it, and the stuff that happens is wild. It's like reality altering.
Honestly, I feel like you're opening a little Pandora's box here, not to be too on the nose with the magic. It's a fascinating part of this book that I want to dive into more, but I want to hear from some callers. You
asked let's get callers.
You asked for one of our listeners to call in who might have a different perspective on the female characters, and Jen with two N's read it, which I'm very excited to hear. So, Jen, if you're there, your mic is muted. If you can unmute that, I know you're out and about, but we always love to hear from Jen with two N's if you can get that mic working. We'll stand by. Oh, wait.
Hello, I'm a lady.
There we go. Hey, there's a lady.
She's a lady.
She's a lady.
Whoa, she's a lady.
What's up, Jen? How are you?
Hey, sorry, walking the dog, so my mic might not be up to snuff, but I did not finish this book. I got 2/3 of the way through. I think after they were captured by the goblins and you find out that apparently Galva is a noble, I was like, I'm just not enjoying this enough to spend my time reading it. And it's probably the first book in a very long time I didn't finish. But I will say, after hearing your thoughts, like, I am willing to pick it back up again. Maybe there's just like other ways I can see it that help me. I thought it was a little boring, which is weird because so much was happening when you're like, okay, they're going to the witch's tower, they're fighting goblins, they're fighting a kraken, but it was just like, here's 2 pages of this thing, I'm done. But yet here's 5 pages of what nickels taste like, you know?
I saw this on the Discord where people are like, he talks about coins too much. Jen, he just doesn't. That's not true. There's like one very entertaining passage where he talks about how he loves coins, and then every once in a while when he picks one up, he says what kind of coin it is. That's it. That wasn't an annoying refrain at all.
I don't know. Teach their own. But the women characters, I wanted to like Galva so much because when we first saw her, she like decimated Kinch's whole group, right? She's just like, boom, boom,
it's
boom,
a very cool intro. It's a very cool intro, yeah.
But I thought she was very flat, one note. Like, all she did was just like, here, let me fight, and then drink wine and like mumble, basically. I feel like we didn't. Yeah,
I don't disagree. I do think that
I disagree.
I think that she might have been a little flat. She had very interesting concepts to her. But it felt like her people was really the interesting concept. Her maybe warrior clan or whatever was the interesting concept. I don't know that it transferred to her being interesting.
We don't like her whole sort of order where she's dedicated to death and she's looking forward to death.
The order's interesting. I don't know that transferred over to what makes her as a character interesting in and of herself. We just brought out
an incredible character moment where she basically won't talk to Kinch for like weeks because she's so into honor and bravery that, his actions really, that was a great place where the characters butted heads. I don't know. I mean, I thought the character was well crafted.
Maybe just
what about
because of where
Norrigal,
exactly
Jen?
I stopped.
What about Norrigal?
I liked her more. We know that she's powerful. She's doing some cool stuff. I like that she was quippy and fun. But a lot of times she's like, just like, hey, want to make out? Which is cool, I guess. But I don't know. She didn't really like stick out to me. Maybe I was just like upset at like how much I was disappointed in not liking this. But I don't know. I'll give it another shot. Maybe the last third will change my mind and I'll report back. But I'm disappointed. I hated it enough to not finish. And so I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in, Jen. I do appreciate it. Wait, give us a famous cat before you go. A famous cat.
Famous
Jen.
cat.
Ooh. Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
There you go.
All right.
I know who it is.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate the call. Okay. Good answer. So
we got someone who didn't like the book. I'm happy.
We have someone who didn't like the book.
Being brave enough to dislike the book. You are wrong, but thank you for calling in to let us know.
Another thing I'll say after hearing Jen rattle off like, and we went up to the witch's brew, and then we go onto the ship and do a fight a kraken, and then here's the goblin thing. I will say if Jen talked to me before I picked up and read this book. I would never pick up and read this book because that sort of stuff to me, I just feel like I'm over it. I struggle with it enough in like my D&D, in my Pathfinder games, right? Like the classic tropey fantasy setups and settings. It's to me, I'm kind of like, I do not want to read a book about this. I think Game of Thrones kind of ruined it for me. I'm like, I'm done with that. I need something else.
This reinvigorates those old tropes.
This pulled it off somehow, and I'm very impressed. Let's get another caller. Let's get Bent Paddle up here. Bent Paddle, did you like the book?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
Jared. All right. Well, what jumps out at you, Bent Paddle? What did you want to talk about?
Well, the writing style Christopher Buehlman has I thought it was very fun. It was very enjoyable. It wasn't constant hits like it was in Dungeon Crawler Carl, but it was, you had some world building between the hits, and I think probably what I like most in fantasy is when it just jumps into the action and then you get a lot of world building through character development. Like we learn a lot about the Takers Guild through Kinch, and we learn a lot about the magic system through Norgal and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good strategy. You also learn a lot about the Takers Guild through, oh my gosh, I forget her name. Who's the assassin? Sesta, yeah. You learn a lot. Like, that took it to another level. You're like, oh, man, they are highly trained and super intense. Like, especially the most... the most intense followers among them.
I want to play a character or use one in an RPG who's covered in one-time use magical tattoos.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you had to play that in an RPG and you were like, I have a really powerful spell, but I can use it like one time?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
It was very cool. Bent, to expand on that, I remember talking to our good buddy Seth Skorkowski. Did you ever play with him, Jared? Did you ever end up crossing paths with Seth?
I've played with Seth. Yes, I have. Okay. Yeah, I love Seth.
So Seth is great, also a writer and a science fiction writer, fantasy writer. And Seth, I remember speaking on Cannon Fodder, I believe it was, about world building. And he said something that always stuck out to me, which is no one will ever be as interested in your world as you are. And if you try to just explain to them how interesting it is, it's never going to work. You have to drip it slowly through character. And I think that, Ben, you're saying this exactly about what Christopher Buehlman did here. I hadn't actually thought of that or put that together, that like you learn about magic through Norgal. So like when you just brought up the magic system, Jared, I thought it was fascinating. And I was like, and there was a lot of really interesting stuff about it. But every time I think about it, I just think about Norgal, pretty much. You know what I mean?
The magic system, you think about Norgal because, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ben.
The whole scene with her making the tattoo, making Bully into a tattoo was just fascinating.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Another thing I'd just say about the magic system is we don't know how it all works. We know some of the things they can do, but there isn't this sort of exhaustive encyclopedic description of exactly how it works. And I think that's cool. There's some mystery left in it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, agreed. Ben, give us a famous cat in fiction.
I was thinking about Goose, the cat from Captain Marvel. That scratches Nick Fury's eye out.
Yes, nice.
One of the high points of the entire MCU. I think we can all agree.
Thanks for calling, Ben.
That didn't feel silly at all.
Goose, the cat from Captain Marvel. So the magic system, Jared, you went on a rant on this very program about the magic system in Wicked. So this one you liked. You thought that there were enough rules that it felt grounded?
I think there's too much talk of what are the rules. It's actually the opposite. I think that, we need to get back to Gandalf and stuff like that, and just like let people do magic. What he does, what Buehlman does in this book is give you enough details that it feels real without like over explaining it to you. And I think that that's excellent. I think that that's the way to go.
One of my favorite parts about it is what seems to be pulled right out of classic D&D. And when you read about sort of, I've read some takes on this book after the fact, after I finished reading it, and somebody did mention how it has flavorful elements of like Dungeons and Dragons in it that are fun and make it enjoyable. And one of those things that I felt that I really liked about the magic was how draining it is on the caster.
Yeah. She's got a couple spell slots, right?
She does a few things and then she's like passing out. I love that concept. Feels like it's draining your very life essence to use it. Which it's an interesting way to. To me,
she needs to take 10 minutes to refocus.
Exactly.
She needs an 8-hour rest.
Like you said, you don't have to say explicit rules, but it's interesting to let people just do magic, but then see it have an effect on them.
Yeah.
That means they can't do this all the time, or if they did, it would kill them. I love those kind of things where you're like, if she does another thing, it could kill her. Like, I love those kind of
Well, it checks her
moments.
power a little bit, so she's not this sort of, solve everything kind of like Swiss Army knife of magical powers. Yeah.
Rima, why don't you join us and tell us what you thought of the book? Rima has called in a few times. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
All right. I'm not driving across Massachusetts today, so it's a totally different setup on the website.
Okay, great. Perfect. Where are you driving across today?
I'm sitting at my desk. It's great.
Oh,
Empty
okay.
office.
And
awesome.
Where is that? Where are you, Rima? I can't remember.
I'm in Worcester, Mass.
Worcester,
Mass.
All right. Are you going to tell?
That's a rough town, Rima.
Are you going to tell Boston Jen with two N's why she's wrong or why she's right?
I liked it.
Okay.
Okay, you liked it.
I was all in once Battle Corvids showed up.
Once Battle Corvids showed up?
Yes, once the Battle Corvids showed up, I was in. I was
that was cool. Wait, so was that that was the first thing, wasn't it? Was that first?
Was in the prologue.
Yeah, the first fight. That it's just such a great way to. I just love that term, Battle Corvid. It was awesome. Yeah. It's so pleasing.
When it talks about how it rips the opponents apart during that fight with the horned guy, that was pretty cool. But then the Battle Corvid could get fucked up too. It wasn't like invincible, Yeah. I really loved the crow.
To find out it was a summon, it was part of the magic system too.
Yeah, the War Corvids. Scribble Skull on Discord says, if you like War Corvids, you'd like the Daughter's War. Also, let's talk about that for a second in terms of world building. When he brings up goblins initially, I'm just like, oh my God, here we go. Like, I'm with Mary. I'm the Mary Lou camp. Like, I'm not a huge goblin fan. And the way that he portrays goblins, so great. I mean, half the book, you're just really scared of them. Like, they're very mysterious and dangerous and awful. And so in terms of the world building, these former wars, the war against the goblins, which I can't remember if that has an exact name, but then how it rolls into the Daughter's War because so many of the male soldiers had died that now all of the women went to fight as well. Such an interesting concept. And so when I saw there was a prequel book on that, I was like, earmark that. I'm going to have to check that out. That sounds really cool. Anything else jump out at you, Rima, about the book before we get to your famous cat?
Yeah, I think that you all covered pretty good.
Awesome. Give us a famous cat.
Thanks for calling in. What's your famous cat?
Going with Shere Khan from Jungle
Shere
Book.
Khan. That's a great one.
Great one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Rima, for calling in. Let's get Travis Green up here. Travis, what did you think about The Blacktongue Thief?
Hey, guys. I really liked it. I thought that it was tropey but well executed. One of the things I really liked was the way that it... Like, the inquest, you don't really get the deal until it's basically happening. But he's peppering it in throughout. There's, like, an early scene with, like, they see a circus or a mummers play or something, telling you backstory stuff that's going to be relevant later.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good way to do it and relevant to, like, RPG planning.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes.
They do a thing like that. Martin did a thing like that in Game of Thrones, didn't he?
Yeah, there's a Game of Thrones
play in like book 3.
Is that in the books or is it just in the show?
I think it's in the books. I believe. But
what's funny about how Martin does it is you're watching things that are going on. You're across the narrow sea. you're in those other countries, but you're watching stuff about Circe in like a little puppet play or whatever.
Circe and Joffrey and Jamie and everything. Yeah, it is. It's, but yeah, they're
better
like
than having like a big here's a huge block of text with all of these different historical figures you don't care about, which goes back to the world building stuff.
Yeah. The way that he kind of dripped out the world building. Are you interested to return to this world, Travis? Do you want to learn more?
Yeah, I'll check out the sequel or I guess it's a prequel, but I thought it ended in a place where I did want to know, okay, what next? Because you do find out the Takers Guild are so horrible, and then his mission is against them. Now he's betrayed them. So it did leave me wanting to find out more.
I know it's a little frustrating because I enjoyed it to have it end on like a little bit open-ended, and then the next one's a prequel? Come on, I need the sequel.
That was weird. Like, what was the strategy behind that? I'm just curious, like from a publisher standpoint.
Our sequel, Buehlman. Let's start the letter writing campaign now.
Sorry, go ahead.
He said that he was trying to write the sequel, and he realized he needed to get more into Galva's backstory, so then he had to go back and write this. So I think there is an actual sequel that will come at some point.
Oh, maybe that'll fill out Galva's character enough for Jen with two ends
so that she's not
be able to enjoy her.
So flat. Travis, give us a famous cat from fiction.
Yeah, I'm going to say Gigi from Kiki's Delivery Service.
Okay.
Gigi.
All right.
I don't know that one.
Travis, going anime, but going with perhaps the most well-known anime creator, Miyazaki. I know it, Travis. I know that one.
Okay. Good. That's good. Let's get Player Guy up here to weigh in on the Blacktongue Thief. We're going to be moving on soon to talking about rogues in general in RPGs, but let's stick on the book as long as people want to talk about it. Player
Guy is your name. Does it mean like you play video games, or is it like you're a player? Like
player.
You are putting up numbers in the sex game.
I've had that question so many times. I made the name because my brother invited me to play a game I was not interested in, and I wanted to make it Player One, which was taken. So I thought of the next most generic thing, which was Player Guy. So no, it has nothing to do with sexual proclivities, but I've gotten that ever since.
Well, it feels like it does. All right. Player Guy, what did you think of the book?
Dude, you gotta just change your answer. I mean, in the future, just say it's because I absolutely slay.
You should say it's because I've had sex with over 250 separate individuals.
Say it deadpan flat.
And say separate individuals so it's not sexist, It's men, it's women, it's non-binary.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm for equality.
Player, what did you think of the book?
I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of the similar pros people are giving. The world building was, I think, phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I want to highlight a particular section, and then I want to talk about something, I guess, that hasn't been brought up. So
sure, please.
In chapter 39, I have the ebook, so I don't know the exact page, but they're describing the city of Eth.
Yeah.
And I think the third paragraph in, he starts talking about how the taverns have amazing names and like lists a bunch of great tavern names, and then starts to tell the story of like a queen there and how it's enshrined in the names of taverns. And I was just like, this is such a great way to do world building. And there was so many moments like that where I was like, I need to bring this to the table. Like that, what a way to describe a city instead of like, narrowing in on a bunch of details everybody knows about cities. Like focus on these taverns and tell a story through the tavern names.
Yeah.
I highlighted that section. It's really good. But it also, something that hasn't been brought up that I think was really well done is it's an extremely dark world. But there is constantly signs of how people are coping and finding humor in the darkness. Mm-hmm. And I've played in a ton of tabletop role-playing games where you bring forward a dark world and you're just getting beaten on and it sucks and it's not really representative of what humans do. And so I thought this was like amazing representation for like humans are going to deal with these terrible goblins and they're going to find ways to mock them and laugh and have a good time, even in the darkness. So I think he did that super, super well. You're laughing the whole time, despite how horrific everything is.
Right on. Yeah.
Agreed. Good point. Like, you're going to build a bleak world. You don't have to have everyone be bleak in it all the time.
Right.
You know? That's a good point. Good call, player. Give us that
a
famous
grim
cat.
darkness. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say real quick, that grim darkness becomes sort of tropey and sort of like stereotypical and predictable at this point. You know, we've had so much grim dark fantasy. So yeah, I do appreciate what you were saying. So sorry, what's your cat?
I'm gonna go with Hobbes from Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, there it is.
That's a good one.
There you go. There you go. There were ones that I was just like, I'm not going to say them just in case somebody said Hobbes. How do you beat Hobbes? That's a tough one.
Hard to beat.
I love Hobbes.
Everyone knows, no one thinks of him.
Exactly. Did I tell you about getting my daughter onto Calvin and Hobbes? Like they were in the library. Yeah. So by the way, got this from the library. I just love when I can get a book out of the library. You pitched this book, and I was like,
yes.
Let me see if it's in the library first. So I went. I'm like, oh, it's there, which to me is a good sign that like it's a well published, well known book at least. And so I went, grabbed it. And there were these Calvin and Hobbes, old torn up Calvin and Hobbes collections in the library. I grabbed a couple, gave them to my 8-year-old daughter. It was like, she's super into reading right now. I was like, try out some of these, not even knowing if it's a good idea, because sometimes Calvin's a little too smart for his own good, and he really lets you know how to get one over on your parents. But I was like, I loved Calvin and Hobbes growing up, so I gave it to her, and she just devoured them. She's so into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love those growing up too. I've been getting my daughter, who's 6, into Doonesbury, so she's getting really immersed in Reagan era hypocrisy.
Oh God!
She's read like 4 collections.
God,
so
I really am like not feeling well, and you just made me laugh until I got lightheaded. Oh God!
Oh no!
Whatchamacallit? Singing Zombies in Twitch chat says not many other cat candidates will know the rules to Calvin Ball for sure.
Yes.
Yes. Great response. Let's take one more on the book before we
absolutely.
There's a couple more. And
also, if you want to chime in on the book later in the show when we're on something else, feel free. Okay.
This name is phenomenal. Is your name Mountain Mama?
It is. Can you hear me?
Nice.
Yes, we can hear you, Mountain Mama. Now, as a West Virginia boy, I particularly love that name.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm calling from Montana, so that's kind of.
A different kind of Mountain Mama.
Yes, Mountain Mama. That's
awesome.
me.
Well, thanks for calling into the show. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, guys. No, a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Great to have you.
Yeah, thanks. So I have to say I'm so sorry, but I'm with Jen. I did not like the book. I'm a Carl fan through and through. I love Carl. We're on like book, I think 5 now of Carl, and I was really sad to have to stop to listen to this book. But
I've seen a few comments that the audiobook stinks. And I didn't try the audiobook.
The Blacktongue Thief, the audiobook's no good?
Yeah, no, I think the audiobook is great because it's the Irish broke, I like that. But yeah, there were parts where I noticed my husband falling asleep, and I was like, wait, but I think he liked it more than I did. But yeah, I did like the prose in it. It reminded me of John Boyne. I don't know if either of you have read John Boyne. No. He wrote the Boy in the Striped Pajamas. So you've probably seen that movie if you haven't read the book.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Oh, it's really touching. It's really sad. But he also wrote this book called Heart's Invisible Furies, and it's amazing. But he has that same kind of wit that this guy had, and it's funny. I liked the writing because it tickled me. It was funny, but yeah, just not as good as Carl. I don't think.
What was wrong with it? Do you think? What were you really
if you
bumping
liked
on?
The writing, was it you couldn't get invested in the
characters?
characters?
Because it was witty. Because I didn't get invested in them. I just kind of wasn't. I wasn't rooting for them as much as I've been rooting for Carl and Donut. I think I know they're so different. They're vastly different. But I just felt like I wasn't into it as much. I did love the Kraken, man. That rocked. That was awesome. but I just kind of was like, it was meh.
I'm just shocked that
for
you
me.
sit and listen to audiobooks with your husband. Do you guys just kind of put them on like radio?
We do. We've listened to all of Robin Hobb's books. I mean, oh my God, she was amazing. Assassin's Apprentice. That's
Wait,
so
so
good.
Mountain Mama, can give us a picture of the scene for a second? Like, are you both doing other things while you're listening to the audiobook, or do you just stare at each other in a silent room listening to an audiobook?
Do you ever make love while listening to Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Oh my God, how did you know, Jared? How did you know?
Oh, Princess Donut.
Oh, Carl, tell me again. No, actually, so sometimes we'll listen to them. Like, we came to the shows in Seattle and Portland. We met you, Joe, and we listened. We drove, so we listened. But a lot of times we'll, after we were done watching you guys on YouTube, we'll turn off the TV and we'll sit, and he'll like do his stuff on his computer, Pathfinder or whatever, and I'll just sit and play a game or whatever, and we'll listen. And it's just kind of our quality time,
So you're telling me you were playing video games while listening to the Blacktongue Thief?
He does that a lot. Yeah, he'll
and you
play
didn't like it.
No, she said he does that a lot.
He plays. No, I'm not. I can't. I'm terrible at video games. Terrible. So I don't play. But he does. Yeah, he plays the Baldur's Gate, I think it's called. He plays that, and he'll listen. So we've listened to the whole Expanse series. We've listened to like
love the Expanse.
Yeah. Oh my God, the books are amazing.
Into that. I've been getting back into that.
Totally.
All right,
worth it.
Mountain Mama. Well, sorry you didn't like it. We'll try to get something as good as Dungeon Crawler Carl next time.
Yeah. Well, I know you're so sarcastic with your comment, but okay.
It's so funny when you said that. The first thing you were like, I don't care about them as much as I care about Carl and Donut. I was like, I wouldn't give a shit if Donut got smashed under the first rock that fell off the thing.
Who gives a damn about them? I know how you really feel, Joe. I know, totally.
But it is true, though, if you don't, and I will say, like, this isn't the best character book I've ever read. You know what I mean? It's not like I was emotionally invested in these guys so much.
Right.
I did think it was fun, though. Give me, Mountain Mama, a great cat from fiction.
Okay, well, you got to go with Gargamel's cat, Azrael.
From the Smurfs.
From the Smurfs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that
another
cat
classic cat.
That cat was he was creating a lot of havoc with the Smurfs. So yeah.
And I remember that. Thank you, Mountain Mama. Great call. Please call in again.
Thanks,
it was great hearing from you.
Thanks so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you. All right.
Thanks,
Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
All right,
it was like terrifying. I remember being terrified of Azrael as a kid. I watched the Smurfs a lot as a kid, and I remember being like, that cat was so scary. Azrael. Not sure how to spell that. I'll have
That's
to.
the name of an angel, I think. Maybe
I'll have to look it up.
Angel.
Tans. Wow, I'm sorry. It's hard to say your name. Tanstaflamoda?
Tanstaflamoda. It's a really stupid thing that I've just held on to the username since forever now. So
have you thought about changing it to Player Guy?
I like a Robert A. Heinlein reference. What can I say?
Maybe Player Flamoda.
I'll give it a try.
Tanstaflamoda, what's going on? Did you like the old Blacktongue Thief there?
Yeah, you'll have to forgive me because I read this years ago, and so was super excited when you guys said you were going to review it, because I originally saw Christoph the Insulter, as he was known, at the Renaissance Festival, and so I followed on Facebook and saw his authorship grow.
Oh, cool!
That's exciting.
So awesome.
How was he? How was his performance?
He was hilarious. I mean, like, roll on the floor, crying with laughter. He, like you said, he was an insulter, and you paid him to insult you, and there'd be a collection. They'd be like, people would throw in $5, and you get like $100, $200 insults, and he would go off on people for almost 10 minutes, and just, I mean, the most terrible vitriol you ever heard in your life.
Was it in medieval speech?
No, it was. I mean, it's been more than a decade now since I saw him last.
Right.
I can't quite remember.
Sure.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But
Anyway, sorry. So when you read his book, you already knew who he was.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, nothing I could say hasn't already been said. The world building I find fantastic. The whole idea of you have a tattoo that can only be seen in the torchlight to get hit in the face and then get a jug of beer, if I remember correctly.
That was great.
It's lovely. For me, fantastic. Just everything about it.
Awesome. Give us a famous cat, Tansta.
Yeah, no worries. I'm going to cop out here. I'm calling in from Edinburgh, and so I'm going to do a British show. Let's do Red Dwarf Cat from Cat.
Cat from Red Dwarf.
Cat from Red Dwarf. Okay, good. Got to clarify on that one. Can't just say cat.
Yeah. Thank you, Tonsta Flamoda.
Thank you so much for calling it. That's so cool that he knew him when he was the Ren Fair performer. And you had started off the show with that.
Shall we talk about rogues in general?
Yeah. Let's move on. God, it's just so tough because people want to talk about the book. I don't know. Let's move on. And if people want to, bring up to call, want to talk about Blacktongue Teeth, that's 100% fine. Either way, you're going to get up here to discuss. So let's talk about rogues for a little bit in RPGs. I want to intro this briefly by saying we haven't talked that much about the Takers Guild. We talked about sort of like the large scale, sort of toward the end aspects of it. Early on in this book, I think there is great inspiration for anybody that wants to play a new rogue character or a thief character. Right. I think it would. I know Skid has thought of this before in the past. I know that he has played some characters that have ties to a criminal organization, right? Or criminal guild and that's scary, right? Like, cause you never know if you get on the outs with them, what can happen. That's really well done in this book, and I think it introduces thieves and in a way that is very interesting because you add a little bit of magic into the fray. You add a little bit of Bene Gesserit level manipulation and fingers in every pot of every nation, moving and shaking the leaders of all. I thought that it was a really cool guild, at least the way that it's introduced early on, and I think that it could be a really interesting inspiration for anybody that wants to play a rogue build in a game like D&D and Pathfinder as a thief, because you don't always play a rogue as a thief. Those are kind of, they can be the same one and the same, but they're not always. Right? No,
there's different builds, right? In Pathfinder and in 5e, your subclass or whatever can make you a different type of rogue. You can be more of a brawler, brute type of a rogue. You can be more of like a social manipulator or mastermind kind of rogue.
Yeah, Let's define terms for a second. I would say when we talk about rogues in RPGs, when we talk about the class, for me, all of those things come under rogue, right? So like every thief is a rogue, but not every rogue is a thief, right? Like I think now if you think back to old school D&D, it was just thief. Like that was kind of the class, but the thief was described, if I'm not mistaken, even in old school D&D as somebody that could also be like a social manipulator, a charming and a swindler, a con artist, right?
That would fall into the purview of role playing a lot of time in old school D&D because, it didn't have quite as many skills and things like that. I mean, rogues were really good at traps, and they were a skill monkey. So they had a lot more, skill abilities than other people in old school D&D. I mean, I think the thing that unites rogues, at least in fantasy D20 games now, whether they are a social manipulator or a thief, is the sneak attack.
Yes.
The sneak attack is, in terms of a fantasy D20 game, the sneak attack is the element that unites all of them. And I find it to be the most fun part of playing a rogue. I think that puzzle of getting that sneak attack damage, it's like if you play a barbarian or a fighter, you kind of just want to go in and do big damage. But if you're playing a rogue, you kind of want it to be a puzzle every time as to how to get the big damage. to me, that's cool. And like the fiction of it is cool. I'm coming up behind the guy and shanking
or I'm
him.
sneaking through in the dark, or I'm going to be the first one in to sneak into the camp, or I'm going to, behind the firelight and then stab somebody in the back. Or once the combat's underway, I'm going to wait till the enemy is distracted by the barbarian, then go in and hit him. You know what I should just say at the jump? It's my favorite class in all of these games. Like, I can't deny that my gut instinct is to always play a roguish character, specifically around sneak attacks and stuff like that. It's not that I always want to play like a con artist. I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of that because I don't think I'm very good at it. I don't necessarily love stealing things. That's not my favorite. But I just love a dex-based fighter, a dex-based martial character that has the ability to sneak, hide, get into places early, scout, and get in a great position to make a sneak attack. To me, that's one of the most fun ways to play these D20 style games.
Yeah, I want to play more rogue. I mean, for sure. Because it is a extremely fun class to play. They're a little squishy, but like you said, one of the things that's funny is when you're playing a fantasy D20 game, is like, you might be this like incredible fighter, like a barbarian or something, but then you realize that, other than when you're jumping or climbing, like your character doesn't know much. Your character doesn't have a lot of skills, but like when you play a rogue, you're almost always succeeding when you roll all those different skills, which come up a lot. So it's fun to succeed at things. And we've already said how fun it is to sneak up on people and stab them in the back.
Yeah, it's, pardon me. It is, it can be frustrating though. Let's talk about the downside for a second. You are reliant on, a lot of times, on tactical gameplay from other players that might not necessarily be there for you. They might not think about your positioning first, right? They might think about themselves. And also, they might just not even really, they might just be playing their character. I'm a barbarian. I don't think about tactics. Like, that's fine. But it can put you in difficult positions. Or even if you're not talking about playing tactically, if you, and this happened to me once in the Giant Slayer realm, you end up through a series of characters dying, story reasons, your party gets kind of reshaped until there is no other melee martial character but you. That can be problematic as a rogue.
Yeah, when a rogue probably shouldn't be your front line.
Yeah.
It's not your
I've been in a party before where the power all comes from casters and you're the rogue. It's like you can like almost never get sneak attack. The big solution to that is make sure that your casters are casting darkness and that everybody has dark vision. Then it'll work for you.
Yeah. That'd be so funny if someone came to you to play your AP and they were like, here's what we're doing. All of the casters have darkness and we all are orcs.
Exactly.
There's your triumph of the Tusk party right there.
Yeah.
Now, I will say as a GM, and this is mostly experience with 5e, but as a dungeon master, I found playing with a rogue very frustrating because Clinton Trucks played a rogue through most of my 5e campaign that I ran for like 2 years. And Clinton Trucks, I forget the name of the exact ability, forgive me, but I was constantly saying, I roll 23, that's a hit. And he'd be like, actually, it's not. Like, every time you'd hit him, he'd be like, nimble dodge, or whatever the ability was called. And he'd be like, actually, you don't hit me. And I'd be like, fuck you. Like, this is so frustrating to hit and then have someone say, actually, no.
What do people think? What do you guys think? Do you think rogues are just awesome across the board? Do you think rogues are too squishy in 5e or Pathfinder 2e? Or I'm curious to see what people think of the class in general. Let's talk to Corvus Duskwalker.
Corvus,
a frequent caller on the program. Corvus, are you there?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Corvus?
Not too bad. I am a big fan of rogues.
Cool.
I think that 5e does a really good job on rogues. I think Pathfinder 2e has mastered.
Has what?
I think he has mastered how to do a rogue.
Mastered. Okay, cool.
Right. Okay.
Like, if you can conceive of a rogue, you can do it in Pathfinder. That's kind of regardless of if you want to be the swashbuckler, whether you want to be the thief, the manipulator, like you can do all that in Pathfinder based on your skills.
So have you played rogues?
I played a little bit. I have my favorites have been my girlfriend played one that was a medic, and she was an incredible medic, like one of the best healers I may have ever seen.
Wow, a medic rogue?
Yeah, so she was like a battlefield, like a doctor, like Sawbones kind of type like that.
I mean, it kind of works because rogues are just, they get all the skills and they also usually have a lot of mobility. So she's able to get to people who are hurt.
And if you take that medic dedication, you can get a free expert in medic. And yeah, that's cool.
And for me, I was the exact opposite. I was a strength-based rogue. And my whole thing was, sneak in. I was pretty good stealth, but sneak in, attack, and then terrify everyone with that your next feat from where you kill someone so viciously that you look at somebody else and now they're scared.
They get the frightened condition.
They're
so your character was basically a serial killer.
Tarek was actually an evil character, kind of slightly based on Riddick in a way.
Ooh, Riddick, interesting. I love that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, this whole thing and stuff like that. But yeah, I love rogues. Rogues are great. And as far as squishiness, don't be there.
Right? Yeah. Get out of the way before
the Miyagi school of defense. Don't get hit.
Corvus, give us a famous cat. I want to get to a lot of callers in this segment. Give us a famous cat.
Fictional cat. We're going to go with Schrodinger's cat because everyone knows him and they don't know him.
That's a great one.
Because it either is or it isn't, and it is both at the same time.
Yeah, great answer, Corvus. Great answer. That's awesome. Lots of people want to talk, and I really want to get to as many as we can. Let's get DeSicchio up here. DeSicchio, back on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I got the good mic plugged in. Hopefully, it's coming in clearer than last time.
You sound great.
Awesome. So
go ahead.
I was just going to jump right in with like rogues. Probably my favorite thing about rogues in TTRPGs in general is just like, I feel like sometimes these other classes are like monoliths of like, they have a very central idea, and Pathfinder does a great job with archetypes of adding variety. But I feel like rogues naturally have some of the best variety in the game when it comes to options and the ways you can do it. Like the medical rogue that we're just talking about. And I gotta say, like, one of my favorite rogue builds that I ever came up with, I haven't had a chance to play it because I'm a forever GM, but I did come up with this. I am going to do slight self-promotion here, but for the past 4 years on the Pathfinder subreddit, I've been doing a weekly thread called Max the Min Monday, which, because I was annoyed with people, like, going like, hey, I want to use this option in my character, and all the time you'd see it on the subreddit, don't take that, it's a trap. So my goal with this weekly series was to take those trap options and show how you can actually make them a central part of your character if you build around them properly. And it's been really fun. It's been a blast. But that birthed like a fire dancer rogue build that uses the underground chemist archetype. So he's like all into pyrotechnics for his shows. And yet it still comes around into a very cohesive build that does 100% fire damage sneak attacks. And using volatile cocktails, volatile accelerants, actually increases the sneak attack damage significantly. And it's like, I wouldn't have thought about that without the constraint of I want to try something I would have never thought of before. And the rogue just slid into that perfectly.
Very cool. Yeah, because like you said, you just have so many options. What a cool and terrifying concept. Give us a famous cat.
I'm going to say Guinevere from the Legend of Drizzt series. I know it's a series that people love to hate or love to love, either way. But I love that cat.
The Ghost Panther.
Yep.
Guinevere the Ghost Panther. Nice. Thank you, as always, for calling in, buddy.
I just wanted to say, I really do hate, all the online, like, don't take that feat, don't take that ability, it's a trap. I think that's such a wank. It makes me roll my eyes so hard. Anything can be good in the right campaign. And if you take something that you find fun, then your GM should help you make it cool. And anybody who thinks it's all a zero-sum game where some things are just objectively better than others is, I think, a little bit missing the point of RPGs.
He said something else that jumped out to me that I feel like we should talk about this one day on the show. But let me get an early take from you. Have you ever built a character when you didn't have a game coming up to play that character in? Like, have you ever built a character just to build one?
Absolutely. In fact, I probably did it this week.
Oh my God. Fascinating.
Listen,
we should talk about this on the show sometime.
It's fun. It's just fun. And there are games that I desperately want to play that I don't think I'm going to get a chance to anytime soon.
Yeah.
And the way to get that little hit is to build the character. Although sometimes I start getting into it and I realize it's 12:30 a.m. and I'm like, deep into the mechanics of this character, and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not even going to play this.
What is Singing Zombies doing with their life? Singing Zombies, join us.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes.
How's it going, Singing?
Good, it's great. Excited to see you guys next week in Ann Arbor.
Oh, awesome. Oh, so glad you're going to be there. That's right. Next week, we'll talk about it on next week's show. We're heading to Ann Arbor for the first time ever. That show is going to be awesome. Anyway, sorry. What would you want to weigh in on here? Rogues or the book?
The Rogues.
Please.
I've always loved the fact that there's like so much history, at least from the D&D side of things for Rogues. Like they're kind of the origin of like, this is what my character would do.
Right. Yes.
I think one thing I think about when you guys bring up Rogues is a discussion that, especially when you're doing homebrew, the moment anyone picks a rogue as a GM, you kind of feel like, oh, I need to put traps into the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And opens up that discussion as a GM, like, do you like traps? Because there is a rogue, do you feel like you need to necessarily put in traps if you don't like traps? I know Paizo had a funny lesson where they had to put in a rogue rule. They call it the rogue rule because I believe there was an adventure path that had 0 things for the rogue to do by the time of the end of the adventure.
They didn't realize.
Yeah, and then they put in a rogue check where they make sure they just check all the books that there's something for the rogue to do if there's a rogue, assuming there is a rogue in the party, which I just find interesting from a design standpoint, because it really is true that if I don't have a rogue in the party, I kind of generally don't put traps in my adventure.
Well, that's why there's those player's guide to every AP, and then in that player's guide, it'll be like a paladin. A champion. A champion would be great for this. A fighter would be good. A wizard would be great. And then at the end, it'd be like a rogue would. I don't think it'll fit here,
Yeah, and
it's
then,
like when we played Quest for the Frozen Flame, that was the investigator. They were like, I don't think you need an investigator in the realm of the Mammoth Wars.
That's right, investigator.
It's very important for pre-written so that people feel like they didn't kind of pick the wrong thing because it just doesn't come up.
It's an interesting concept, and thanks for bringing it up. To me, as a GM, I don't run a lot of D20 games, but I love traps. I love traps. As a GM, it's like, what's not to love? Not only are they really fun to mess with people with and hurt them in interesting ways and get them all like puzzle solving, but even if it gets found, it's such a cool moment for a player, and it's quick and easy and then moves the story along. I don't know.
I think the problem with traps, and we should do a segment on this, is the perceiving them, how you encounter them, how they go off. There's always been a lot of controversy about that. And even in Pathfinder, it sort of in some ways demands the exploration rules, which sometimes people don't fully use. It's that's a complicated. I think people love when traps go off and crazy stuff happens. It's just adjudicating them that gets a little tricky.
Yeah, they can get tricky. Singing, give us a famous cat before we move on.
Aslan from Narnia.
Yeah,
Aslan from Narnia. Big one.
Good one.
Big answer. Thank you, Singing.
He's God. So
yeah. How are you going to vote against
Zombies
God?
just suggested God.
Slow Eye Joe, join us on the show here. Love this. So many people jumping in.
Where did you come from? Where did you go, Slow-Eyed Joe?
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Yes.
All right. So I actually have a hot take on rogues. I am bearish on rogues in general in TTRPGs.
Okay.
So my big beef is kind of boils down to two things. One being sneaking, and the other being combat mechanics. Rogues are really good at sneaking. However, in the context of their entire party, I feel like if you ever have your entire party trying to sneak somewhere, it's almost inevitable that someone's going to fail and cover's blown, which doesn't feel very cool. The other thing, when it comes to combat,
I agree. Yeah. I am not a fan of that mechanic. I've talked to you before about this, Jared. We talked about the concept of doing Blades in the Dark style clocks for awareness of an enemy, because whenever you get into group stealth rolls, it's all but guaranteed failure. And that's just mathematical. It has very little to do with the players themselves. And so it can be kind of boring to have like the result already basically known mathematically before people are even rolling. But to have a clock where it's like it's not pass or fail. It's like you start to become seen, and maybe you can still do a few things in the dungeon before you're actually you trigger the alarms or whatever, is one way to deal with it. The other way is also I'm sorry, Joe. There's the mechanic of if half the party or more succeeds, you all succeeded. That's an interesting one too. So if half the party or more, that's good. I also like the follow the expert. Sometimes I think that you have to loosen it maybe a little bit because the mechanic is in there in 2E. Sometimes I feel like it's not robust enough to make it feel truly like you're following an expert and that expert is making all the difference. It sort of just feels like you get a small bonus to the roll and you're still going to fail it anyway if you're not a trained stealthy person. I don't know. We could talk about that another time, but it is a good point. It is a reason to be bearish on rogues. Sneaking can be frustrating. Yeah, continue. And it means like you got to go play alone. Right.
So that's what I was going to say is the rogue can go off and be cool by themselves, but everyone else is just kind of in a holding pattern waiting before they can engage with the encounter too.
Let's sum it up. It's a very interesting concept. Rogues are ruined by every other party member, basically, with the exception of sneak attack from flanking. Let me say though, the whole thing with rogues going off. All right, one second, Jared, go ahead, real quick. The thing with rogues going off and sort of having a little mini adventure on their own, that can be fun and cool if your GM is making it interesting and not making it take too long. It can't take 15 minutes. And the other thing, the rest of the party has to pay attention and be generous with their time and go, okay, let's let the rogue do something now. Most recently in Quest for the Frozen Flame, Mary Lou's druid, not even a rogue, went off and had like an entire 20-minute adventure on her own. But everybody was cool with that, and we tried to make it quick and interesting. So much of RPGs are not just how the mechanics work, they're how they're run. And so the rogue going off on their own can be cool if it's run correctly. Those are the places where I will say, like, to a player, to the other players, when they're like, ask them if they know about blah, 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 or look around the corner, blah, blah, blah. That's where I tend to not be like, you're not there. You're not there. Because if it is going to be 20 minutes long, it's like, let them be invested in what the rogue is finding out. Let them as players, or as players, help drive the narrative too while this one character is playing. I don't know. I think good advice, Joe, but I tend to be like, you're not there. Because, I know. No, there are definitely you're not there moments. I just don't think it's 100% of the time you're not there. You don't get to be involved. No, you're right. The way you're saying it is how it should be run, and the way I run it is to go, you're not there because I'm an asshole. Sorry, Slow Eye, please continue.
Yeah, so sneak attack is cool at the very beginning of the fight for the first strike you make. But I feel like after that, the narrative and the mechanics are somewhat disjointed. They're not really in harmony. Narratively speaking, I don't really see the difference between a sneak attack from a rogue mid-combat versus just two melee fighters flanking somebody. And so I don't tend to enjoy that mechanic as much And I feel like they're not getting enough narrative juice for the squeeze on the sneak attack, because it's really just that first strike before the enemy's aware that, you know, the party's there or whatever. So
yeah, Slow Eye, give us a famous cat.
I'm gonna have to go with Tevildo from Baron and Luthien by Tolkien.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Tevildo from
what?
what?
That is a deep Silmarillion reference.
Oh.
Tevildo. Well, it's not from Silmarillion. It's from Baron and Luthien. But yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Slow Eye Joe. Deep cut. Deep cut.
That's a deep cut because I don't think it's even in the... It's like when Sauron was a cat. It's very confusing. But there was a draft or a version of a legend Tolkien wrote where Sauron was in a cat's form.
Okay.
And his name was Tevildo.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Sweet Threat, come up to the stage here. Join us. Sweet Threat.
Hey. Sorry. Hey, guys.
Hey. Are you sick too?
No, it's something that happened to me. Sorry.
It sounds like a ball hit him in the head as we put him on the air.
Yes. It was pretty close.
Did someone throw a ball at you?
I just swallowed wrong.
I swallowed wrong. It happens. Sweet. You want to weigh in on rogues here?
Swallowed wrong.
Hell yeah. So the last time I ran something, 1E AP that I updated to 2E, the only marshal in my party was a rogue, and he lasted 2 combats.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't be the only marshal. That's the thing.
Yeah. He got shot with a lot of arrows real quick.
Just becomes a pin.
So that's one thing. Yeah. Yeah. It was horrific.
Did you talk to your players about the party composition before you started?
Sure did, Jared. I also they first rolled up with 3 charisma casters, and I said maybe just let's pick a couple of stats to like spread it out a little, maybe a couple traditions. I talked with them about it, and they wanted to try to run it.
Okay.
There's this thing that happens with party composition in almost every game, not just fantasy D20 games, where people keep stepping on other people's shtick. Like you'll have 3 people come and they all want to be the charismatic social person, you know? And I'm not saying this happened with this particular example you're giving, but it happens to me all the time. And then you have to tell people that they have to play something different. But your reasoning for telling them that it's like so hard to communicate. Like you're stealing someone else's shtick. You're all going to be doing the same thing. And it's tricky. It's tricky to tell them that.
Absolutely. But for me, it was also it's layered. But I think one thing that really also comes to the front with Rogue specifically is that Rogue, as Slow Eye Joe also pointed out, they invite a sort of, like, I don't want to call it solipsism, but a sort of solo specific playstyle and intent. And they also kind of invite a specific social role with that character that doesn't really happen with any other character in a TTRPG. I think, at least in PF2E, aside from the investigator. The investigator has a very specific, like, social role, as does the rogue. They have thieves' cant. They're like a social group. And fighters aren't a social group.
Yeah, it is interesting to think. I would separate it from an investigator even. It is funny. Like, it is the name of a class that is really a personality trait. Basically.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to every other class, right? Like,
I mean, rogue is.
Yeah. Like, I'm thinking this out loud. Like, rogue as a class just means you operate outside of the lines, right? Like, you cross the line all the time in whatever way. Like, that's interesting.
And it's specifically with thieves' cant, which is like, it's like based a lot on like some of these like lowbrow languages, especially from England, and it comes from tradition, of course, with also with like AD&D and the alignment languages and all that. But we have backgrounds that are also like criminals. We have specific. If you want to be a criminal, you can like pick a background like a pickpocket or something. but for some reason, Rogue does the same thing for a character. It like makes you a criminal twice over.
Well, I don't totally agree, Sweet Threat. I think that what we were talking about at the beginning is that a rogue can be all kinds of things. Like
absolutely,
there's a bunch of different, like a social manipulator isn't necessarily a criminal. And I would also say, like, if the role playing is what's bothering you, if the person that takes the rogue role is going against the party a lot or going solo without considering the party a lot, that's not the fault of the class. That's the fault of the player, right?
Yes.
Not the class.
Yes, but I think for a lot of people, like a knee-jerk reaction is to accept that sort of like mind space where they are going to prioritize looting first. They are going to insist on sneaking ahead so they might get a better peek or have that, like, I don't want to, because I don't attribute that to any sort of like bad character trait on the player's behalf or to the rogue's framework, but I think there's some like enmeshing where that just keeps happening, and I keep seeing it, especially when people want to play that archetype.
I gotta be honest, it's totally on the player. It's totally on the player.
Yeah, but
because a barbarian can be annoying too, constantly running in and attacking before everybody gets to kind of plan out how they want to handle the combat. A wizard can be annoying. Anybody can be annoying if they're played by someone who's not playing as a team and being generous with the fellow players.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think that there's something to be said about the baseline starting point for the rogue as a class is, by definition, you're not a team player. Whereas a wizard, that's like a choice to not be a team player. As a barbarian's a good example. That one is a little trickier because you're like, I'm a barbarian. I don't think. I just run in and I just scream and kill the first thing without talking to anybody. That can be kind of annoying. And I get your point there, Jared. But yes, you are right. At the end of the day, it's about the player has to make these choices.
I operate outside of the rules in the fiction, in my role-playing persona. And then I operate outside of the rules in the way I play as a player. And those are two separate things. You can play a rogue and be roguish without pissing off your GM and fellow players.
That's true. Sweet, give us a famous cat. Come on. There's a lot of hugely famous cats out there.
Thomas O'Malley from Disney's The Aristocats.
Oh, I'm very familiar because my children love that mediocre Disney movie. It
is mediocre.
Yeah.
From The Aristocats. Yes. Thank you, Sweet. All right, we got to move on because we're running out of time here. Obviously, there's lots to talk about with rogues.
Right.
Those of you that are standing by to call in, hang on because we're going to get you up here to, at the very least, get your cat in. So hang in there with us. We're going to get to you shortly, but let's move on topic-wise, and we'll get to these calls in a second.
All right. So our next topic is 3 questions. Last time we did this, Joe O'Brien asked me 3 questions. Today I'm going to ask Joe, and these are questions that we don't know are coming. We haven't discussed them with each other beforehand, and they can be kind of about anything. They just need to be
I'm a little nervous.
open-ended.
This is unprepared questions about anything.
Yes. Now, I could not remember what you asked me last time, so I hope there's not too much overlap here, but we still haven't heard your perspective either way. So,
okay.
Question number 1.
Yes.
Superhero movies appear to be on the downswing in popular culture. Marvel lost a lot of money on several of their superhero movies in the last couple of years. What is going to replace superhero movies, or what do you hope would replace them as the dominating genre?
Interesting. Wow. That's a really good question. I don't know what would replace them. I do feel like, man, I think that it could, maybe it's just because I'm in the zone right now. I've been, I thought we would talk about it more in the Rogues segment. I was reading, I've been diving back into Blades in the Dark and just rereading the book because it's such a great role-playing system. It helps you so much to learn how to play. any other game. Really
Right,
good
it's
points.
true.
And so I'll say the thing that's at the tip of my tongue here is I think that there are a lot of those kind of less popular fantasy and steampunk and crossing over-ish into a little bit of sci-fi properties that have not been explored in mass media like that, in TV and stuff. I feel like look, there was a time when superheroes would have been a huge leap to have the mass market buy into. There was a time when something like Game of Thrones never would have been on the radar of the audience. So it's really not about the audience isn't ready for this. It's all about the vision of the creators and selling it in a way with character and story that engages people and gets them to care. I feel like we could see a replacement with some of these less, something like Duskfall could make a phenomenal TV series, prestige TV series with factions and gangs and manipulate, all with a sort of a level of technology that goes in between what has hit mass media so far, right? A level of technology between Game of Thrones and The Expanse, right? Like somewhere in between where it has the sci-fi-ish airshipy elements, but also you're talking about plenty of fighting and melee with swords and sabers and stuff like that. But then someone has a gun, and that makes a huge difference. Those kind of things.
So just to review, guys, when I asked Joe what will replace superhero movies, he said steampunk. So just so everybody remembers this day, Joe thinks steampunk is the next big trend.
I think that they're going to start blowing up some of these other fantasy properties that are just not quite as explored.
I'm going to get you a top hat with goggles on it. And you're going to wear it at Vegas. Steampunk
Brilliant.
Joe.
Steampunk
Joe.
Joe.
Steampunk Joe. All right. This is my next question. What is the future of actual play? Is it going to become more popular, more mainstream, or will it always remain a niche form of entertainment?
I certainly am only doing this because I think it's going to become mainstream. And I think that the way it becomes mainstream is going to take a great deal of evolution. I don't think the way that everything is done right now is going to directly result in mainstream entertainment. But I think that there have been a couple different attempts at a couple different ways to try this that haven't worked so far. And I think that there's ways out there similar to your previous question. It's going to be about creators that come up with a concept that translates this inscrutable esoteric hobby to people that have never seen, heard of it, or know anybody that plays it, which is most people, right? So like you got to kind of translate that through character and story and engagement. And I think it's definitely possible. I think that's where it's headed. I don't think it's just going to fizzle out to nothing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so you're saying it's going to go more mainstream, but isn't that going to make it sell out, Joe? Isn't that selling out?
I will say that it would probably be redefined in a way.
It would. It's going to look very different if it goes mainstream.
I don't think you can even call it actual play. Whatever would end up being. I think actually playing, while it needs to be a component of it, I don't think that would ever land mainstream in the traditional style of how your games at home feel. And
it's hard for me to conceive people who have never played Dungeons and Dragons watching actual play. The only way I can really conceive of a mass interest in that is like if we had the holodeck, you know what I mean? Or if we had some kind of virtual device that makes us feel like we're there, then I can see people role playing on that level. So I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a big one. That's a big question.
That's a big question.
I'd be curious, people that are waiting to get on here, we're going to get you on in a second. And if you have any thoughts of like what you think the future of actual play is, I'd be curious to hear.
Yeah. Okay. Third question. If you had to pick one thing that makes a great player in a TTRPG, what would that one thing be? A great player. You've been a GM, you've been a player, you've done a lot of both.
Honestly, I think, oh man, this is
you
tricky.
Can only pick one thing. Don't be like one of our callers and be like, actually, I have two.
I would say a great player. Man. I'm going to just go with complete awareness of the rules.
Wow, okay.
Complete awareness of the system. There are so many important things to being a player. But if your base is you know the rules inside and out, whether you need to like constantly bring that up or not is a completely different topic. And if you do it too much, you're a bad player. But knowing what you're doing in that respect is huge for everybody at the table and for the GM. I love the concept of a player captain, somebody, because the GM, when you GM games, it is not your job to know all of the rules all of the time. There's so many times when you are simply, you don't even hear what's being said while you're GMing because you're so in the zone of reading or looking at the next thing or thinking of the next plot point or thinking of the next challenge. And it's great to have a player there that has an encyclopedic knowledge of what the rules are. It keeps the game moving, especially in these tactical type games.
I did not expect that answer, but you're making a good argument.
It's
right?
a very nuanced answer because it is, you can weaponize those in a negative way and be a bad player. But a great player, a great improvisational artist, someone that really knows how to give and take time from any one of those can be stymied and slowed down by not knowing the rules of the game they're playing.
Right.
And I feel like having that base is like that. If a player comes to the table and says, I was re-listening recently actually to Haunted City episode 1 to when you created the characters in Haunted City episode 1. And it was so evident that Josephine came to the table knowing so much about the rules of the game.
Joe always knew the rules.
And I love that in a player. I think that is such a great trait. She came to the first session asking questions, wanting deeper information, and teaching you on aspects that you didn't even realize yet, even though you had been playing longer. And she obviously, Joe has a way to do it that is charming and engaging and makes you learn and doesn't feel overbearing or know-it-all-ish. And yeah, so that's
it's knowing the. So you're saying knowing the rules, not telling the rules.
Exactly. That base of knowledge. You know, how you disseminate that is a different player characteristic. But I would say first and foremost, really knowing it is going to make the game better for everybody. It makes it faster. How much does it suck when you sit around and everybody's going, oh, geez. Me just.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm looking in the index under, flanking. I don't see flanking specifically in the index. I don't know what page,
Well, there's always that push-pull no matter what, but you're right. It goes so much smoother when everybody knows the rules. And I've found that I don't really know how to play a game until I've played it 10 times. Yeah. That's one thing. And then, I don't know, there's just always that push-pull. One thing that I later came to as a game master was like, I tend to like really push to pace a lot. Like I want to go, you know?
Yes.
And that made stopping down to look at rules very difficult for me. I felt like I was failing if I or other players were doing that. And now I'm like, take a breath. Like the rules are part of it. They can be a fun part of it, you know? Yeah. But even in Blood of the Wild, sometimes you're like, actually, that's not the rule. And I'm like, but it's really not me annoyed at you. It's me. I'm annoyed at myself for not having absorbed it already.
It is tough. I have struggled over the years so much in, how to communicate that. And I've also struggled with getting it wrong. Thinking you have it right and it's wrong. It's just tricky. So what I would love as a player is to know all the rules and be right about all of them, and then decide how that comes out in gameplay. So first and foremost, let's be knowledgeable about it. Then we can worry about being a good player with that information.
Well, you really want the whole team to be somewhere around each other. Like having one guy that knows all the rules and everybody else not knowing them at all, that guy's going to be very frustrated, and he's going to have to tell the rules sometimes in order to keep the game moving.
And that person becomes villainized by the other players, even if it's just for fun. Even if it's God, shut up.
I've known the opposite to happen, where you've got like 4 people who know the rules and 1 who refuses to know them at all. Like that can also be frustrating. So you kind of hope to get everybody kind of in this nice median space. Yeah. It's interesting. It is very interesting. Shall we take callers, or should we just move on?
Let's take some callers. Okay. Let's get some callers. You guys could talk about any of these 3 questions that Jared brought up, which were great, by the way. Great question. Really hard,
thank you.
Hard, but fun to think about questions. Anything we talked about today, the book, rogues, the 3 questions, and of course, we're going to get your answer in for the contest before the end of the show. Philonis, if you're still here, hop in and join us if you're still around, or Pilakari. If you're here, Pilakari, do you want to join? There we go. Pilakari's here.
Hi, Pilakari.
Hey, Pilakari. How are you?
How are you?
Good. Philonis, give us a second. We'll be right with you. Go ahead, Pilakari.
Yeah. I actually wanted to talk about the rogues for a sec.
Great.
I felt like they got a little bit of it was like a negative ending. I don't know. I guess I want to kind of
it was 2 in a row. There were 2 kind of rogue detractors at the end. They're not rogue hate, but just let's think about these things that are not that great about the rogues. I appreciate that, but we did end with 2 of those. So what's the bounce
back? It's about people's experiences with that, which is valid. Like I understand that it can, call a certain type of person to it sometimes. But I also, the point I wanted to make was that it can be a really versatile multi-class option. Because it's not extremely stat dependent. So like if you have, generally it's dex based. So like if you have dex of a certain value, you can just think about getting some rogue feats, some rogue class options that could be useful for you. And also it could be, which happened in my game a few times, could just be motivated by the story to go that direction a little bit. And I like that aspect of Rogue a lot.
That's cool. Sorry, Pilakari, we don't have a lot of time, so give me your famous cat.
Cheshire Cat.
Cheshire Cat. Great one. That's great.
We've heard of it. We've all heard of it.
All heard of it. I didn't think of it. Thanks, Pilakari.
Just because I play devil's advocate, I am not a fan of multi-classing. I think people constantly are like, I would like a second archetype and a second class, and I'm like, dude, learn how to play one correctly. Like, it's very complicated to just play a fighter. And I feel like players are always like, I need more knobs and dials. And it's like, you actually don't. Like, figure out how to play the class.
Yes. Agreed. Philonis, are you there? You can unmute your mic if you wanna join and hop into the combo here.
Hey, real quick, I'm on the floor at work, so I just say my thing real quick. You guys mentioned that like the thieves and all that don't get really used too much in the rogues, I believe. I've been listening, but like I haven't played a rogue myself personally.
Yeah.
But in the group I'm playing, Dungeon of the Naish, we did Dragon before that. We got a guy playing a fairy rogue, arcane trickster, but she's basically just she sees anything glittery, she goes after it, and it's pretty awesome, like the dynamics that we get into and all the shenanigans that we have to deal with her going to steal and then dipping out, like in the final battle of Dragon House when we're down in the Undercity and all that. Yeah. She kind of just goes invisible, leaves us, gets the gem, and then tries to get out.
Sorry, Philonis, we're having trouble with your phone, but I think I hear what you're saying there, and it's just that, man, the options that you have as a rogue for interesting story that is not necessarily you have to beat the boss to get the item. You know, you could just get it and get out of there, right? I mean, we didn't even talk about the most famous, like one of the most famous rogues of all time, Bilbo. Bilbo Baggins,
Bilbo's
the
a rogue.
original,
He's a burglar.
the burglar, right? Like, just get in, get what you need, get out. Don't even have to fight. It's kind of cool. Philonis, before we let you go, give us a famous cat. Come on, famous. There's big ones out there still.
Felix the cat.
Felix the cat. Yes, good one.
Philonis was also just saying that he kind of likes how the rogue goes a little solo and does its own little scouting mission. So, like I said, you know, people can enjoy that. You know, sometimes when I'm playing, I'm like, a little break while the rogue does something. You know?
Yeah, it's very like Philonis said there. It's what you basically that exact thing. Oh, she just goes and grabs whatever's shiny, or she'll leave the party at times. She'll blah, blah, blah. That exact same setup could be somebody being like, and that's why I hate my friend that plays the rogue. Or, that, you know, and the way Philonis said it was like, and that's what makes it fun and interesting. And like, it gets us in trouble a lot, but that's fun. Getting into trouble's fun, you know, so it's neat. It's all different takes about how, you know, people deal with it at the table. All right, let's do a quick round the horn here. We're going to try to get as many as you can of you as we can in just to get in the contest. So I'm going to bring you up. We're going to ask you a famous cat, and then we're going to kick you out. Sorry, we can't go into more, but we don't have time. Jared's got something he's got a rant on.
I got a rant.
Ultimate Fritz Frisbee? Oh, Ultimate Frisbee. Got it. Ultimate Frisbee. Took me a second.
You pronounced it ultimate?
Ultimate.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you. I got there.
You made it there eventually.
Give me a famous cat.
Man? How are you?
I'm great.
Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat. Never said all show. Can you believe it? Never said all show. Thank you, Ultimate. Great one. We'll get back to you. We'll let you know who else we got here. Love this. Let's get Serge up here. Serge, are you still there? Serge?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I'm here.
Hey. Sorry we couldn't get to you until now, but just give me a famous cats.
I'm going to go with Crookshanks from Harry Potter.
Crookshanks from the
Crookshanks from Harry Potter.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Mr. E. Knight, give us a famous cat. Mr. E. Knight. Mr. E. Knight. All right, Bloom. We'll move on to Bloom. Bloom, give us a famous cat.
Kate Sith, Final Fantasy VII.
Who is it?
Kate Sith from Final Fantasy VII, also known as Ketshi, either pronunciation.
Oh man, sorry, I don't know.
Joe, please use the Ketshi pronunciation for this cat from a very specific volume of the Final Fantasy franchise.
Well, it is also the most famous installment, but
we were all thinking about this cat. It was on the tip of our tongues.
Right. Remember, guys, we're not looking for the nerdiest possible cat. We're looking for the most well-known cat that nobody thought of. Like the Cat in the Hat was a great answer. Calbarog. You're running out of. Oh wait, Mystery Knight is back. Mystery Knight.
Oh, I am back.
You're back. Give us a cat.
I was going with Heathcliff the cat.
Heathcliff.
Yeah,
there you
go. He's like
go.
the ghetto garbage cat version of Garfield. He's great.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Calbarog, what do you got?
How about Mr. Bigglesworth from Austin Powers?
Excellent.
The impression is worth extra points. That's wow.
Oh, that was good. All right, we might get a few more in here before the end of the show, but let's get to Jared's Nerd Rant. We love to get a good Nerd Rant in here every once in a while. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Jared. This week it's going to be Jared. I had something that came up brand new. By the way, we're talking about new news from Paizo. And hang in there, callers. We might get a few more in for your cats before the end. We may, whatchamacallit, but I'm not wondering about this. I know for sure that Jared is not going to like this.
Okay.
So, hold on a second. I want to get this set up properly. So, how to do this? McD, just have that image queued up to go into our topic window. I'm not going to put it up on the main screen. Don't put it up yet. You can switch to the Nerd Rant topic, but then I want you to change that topical image to this other image, and Jared, you'll be able to see it on stream there. So the image I'm going to show is some artwork that came out of a recent publication, which is to come out. It's not out yet, but it's called the Draconic Codex from Paizo. Our good friends at Paizo coming out with the Draconic Codex, which sounds so cool. But I saw an image that I thought you would find interesting. Go ahead and throw it up there, McD. This is an image of something called a dragonette, and it is playing a lute. It is a tiny dragon the size of a pigeon, and it is playing a lute. Without any other context, I'd like your thoughts on this image, Jared.
Well, wait, is this what is the? I need a little context. This is a playable.
I believe this is. I don't think it's a familiar. I think it's a playable character class or ancestry that you could play in the new Draconic Codex, which, by the way, sounds very cool. There's a lot of extremely there's everything from elder, ancient, giant dragons to this, what seems like
to a tiny
pigeon-sized dragon,
smiling purple dragon, pigeon-sized, playing a lute. Well,
playing a lute.
First, I'd like to
I
say
was curious to your initial impressions on something of that nature.
Yeah, first, I'd like to say that I love the Paizo brand, and I think the bulk of material that comes out of their studio is excellent. However, they are a for-profit company, and they are aware that many players want to play ancestries that are, for want of a better term, stupid. Paizo realizes that they must have character options for pudding heads. So playing a tiny dragon with a lute is contrary to the theme and mood of Pathfinder's Golarion setting. Imagine playing a cute, adorable flying dragon in Quest for the Frozen Flame, an AP that I'm very familiar with. At one point, your cute little talking dragon is going to encounter a village square filled with decapitated heads of innocent villagers who oppose the local totalitarian regime. Do you see how the character doesn't match the setting there? Okay? What is the dainty dragon going to do when he sees the heads of innocent people on spikes? Play a jaunty song?
A sad song. He'll play a sad song.
Quip a clever riddle. Maybe he'll just be traumatized by the horror of that and end his own life with a firearm from the Guns and Gears supplement. Can you imagine a little purple dragonette strumming a lute, fitting in as a player character in Curse of the Crimson Throne or Kingmaker? If you can, you are wrong. Pathfinder is a dark game. In every possible interpretation of the game, you are expected to stab people or bash their heads in with a blunt object. The game is not meant to be whimsical. The game is not meant to be totes adorbs. The density of the rules alone tells you that this is a game meant to be played by full-grown adults who don't carry around their stuffed animals. Your goofy ancestry choice doesn't make you unique or funny. It just shows that you don't get it. The reason people like goofy ancestries is either A, they are bad at role-playing and think that playing something goofy will make their character interesting. It will not. They are a little embarrassed to be role-playing and think playing a weird race will show everyone that they're not taking this too seriously. They should. Or C, they are a pudding head. So I'm not here to tell you how to have fun, okay? If you really want to be an adorable little creature who uses magic to create friendship and giggles, may I suggest a game that would be perfect for you? It's called the My Little Pony role-playing game. You get to play little magical ponies, And if you meet some other folks who want to play this game, who knows? Maybe you guys could dress up in pony costumes and then meet in a hotel room near the airport and rub up against each other. That's a game you could play too. That sounds like it could be fun. Or you could just play D&D 5e.
Oh, the rub up against each other got me. That was next level. Oh my God. That is so funny.
My little pony, my little pony.
So
that's what I think of your dragonette.
Exciting news out of the halls of Paizo for sure. The Draconic Codex seems like it's filled with a lot of plenty of dark epic stuff.
Sounds like there's cool stuff in it. I would like to read it.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to rip that page out with the dragonette. I'm going to rip it out.
Somebody in chat said Jared would not let that thing reach level 2 if a player brought that into his game. Just kill the dragonette.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Great rant, Jared. Great rant, as always.
Thank you.
Skid is in Twitch chat, and he says, glad someone said it. Skid, you're the best. All right, let's go final around the horn for the lads. We got a couple minutes to get the last few people in here before we pick a winner. Best cat. Oh, you know what? I screwed up. Oh, no. Is it Mr. Bigglesworth from Austin Powers? Is that the name?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Who said that? I didn't
that
write
was
down.
Knight, Mystery Knight?
No, Mr. E. Knight said Heathcliff. Geez, was it Bloom? No. Bloom said the Final Fantasy VII one. Shoot. I did. Kalbarog, that's right. Thank you, Kalbarog.
Kalbarog, great answer.
I got you.
Sorry about that.
I got you, Kalbarog. Okay. Pardon me. All right, here we go. Quick round the horn. TJ Hansel, we just need a cat. TJ, give us a cat. Countdown is on.
I was going to say Grumpy Cat from the memes.
Grumpy Cat from the memes. I wondered if a meme answer was going to come up today.
From memes.
Thank you, TJ Hansel. Let's get who else? Clancy up here. Clancy, sorry it took so long to get to you, Clancy. Very disappointing today.
Hello.
Hey,
Puss
how
in
are you?
Boots.
Hey, Clancy.
Puss in Boots.
Puss in Boots, great answer.
in
How did it go
Boots.
this long? How did it go this long? Thank you, Clancy. Puss in Boots, great answer. And let's get one more in here. Let's get Vengeance in here. Vengeance from our Talk Nerdy Hangs. What's up, Benj?
How about Hobbs from Calvin and Hobbes?
Already been said. Do you have another one on deck?
No, I missed some of the other stuff, so that was mine.
All right. Well,
it's a good one, but it's been taken.
It has been taken. Sorry, Vengeance, but thank you for trying. Okay, let's wrap it up here with a little listener award. We're going to give away.
I know what I want. I know which one I like the best.
You know which one you like the best. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I think let's chat it out for a second. And then, first of all, I'll say the winner here is going to get this sweet Glass Cannon Network dice tray. We'll mail it out to you. Those who participated, thank you so much. Man, a lot of interesting answers today. I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know the name of the cat from the Final Fantasy VII cat.
That's okay. It's not going to win.
It is not going. Oh, Kate Sith. That's it. Kate Sith. All right. Yeah, let's just go. You already know what you want. I'll talk through then for a second. Shere Khan, good. Hobbs, love that answer. Schrodinger's cat is so good. Great answer. Cheshire Cat, Felix, Cat in the Hat. I mean, Ultimate Frisbee. I don't know how to know. Ultimate Frisbee had a good one with that. Puss in Boots, rounding it out strong. Grumpy Cat is fun too. I'm going to go with my first instinct, which was Hobbs. I got to go with Hobbs from Player Guy. What's yours, Jared?
It's Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat. Great
what
answer.
a great fictional cat, and it works on multiple levels. It's even
so
fictional
clever.
in the theory.
It's so clever. I can't. I'm too much of a Hobbs fan. I can't go against Hobbs. However, we do have a built-in tiebreaker here. He's our good buddy McD. He produces this show. McD, is it going to be Hobbs or Schrodinger's cat? Who wins it?
Schrodinger's cat.
wins this one.
Schrodinger's cat wins it. Corvus Duskwalker, congratulations, buddy. You are the winner of a sweet Glass Cannon Network dice tray for your awesome answer. That was a great answer. Very clever on several levels, and yeah, hard to deny that that's a great one. So, good job, everybody. Great show, man.
Thanks,
Absolutely
guys.
flew by. So fun as always. Jared, you're as was said many times in chat, you're a national treasure. Thank you for keeping us all honest in our role playing.
You guys are a national treasure. A Nash treasure, as we say.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great one. We got tons of stuff we want to talk about next week, too. We're very excited. Lots coming. We'll see you in a week. Until then, take it easy, everybody. Have a great week and weekend. Later.